A very good evening and a warm welcome to the Thursday talk at Global Cooperation House. My name is Ruth Little and I'm speaking to you from Manchester Inner Space, and I'll be the facilitator for the conversation this evening. Just to refresh your memory, the topic is Talking COP26, 3 things it's good to know. And we're not going to be delivering facts. There are many sources of facts in the media at present and in other sources. So this is going to be more of a personal experience and a conversation. And our aim is for you to go away knowing something you didn't know before about how you can be more active in preparing for COP yourself and for helping others prepare. And hopefully to go away more hopeful for a successful outcome. So just to read through the blurb that was advertised, just to remind you and to give a chance for a few more people to join. In Glasgow this November, world leaders, climate science experts, NGOs and the public are planning to gather for COP26. Glasgow, known as the Dear Green Place. This is the 26th annual conference on climate change, and COP stands for Conference of the Parties. And there are actually 4 main goals for the gathering. And I'm not going to give you a lot more information, but I think this is useful to know. The 4 main goals. Number 1 is to secure global net zero by mid-century and keep 1.5 degrees within reach. So to manage global warming in that way. To adapt, to protect communities and natural habitats, to mobilize finance needed for this, and to work together to deliver the finalized Paris Rule Book and accelerate action to tackle the climate crisis. Because much was achieved in the Paris COP, but not everything is finalized. There is so much information readily available, and in our conversation, we have 2 very special members of the international COP team, and they're from different countries with different backgrounds, but with the same passion to make a positive difference. Let me introduce, first of all, Sister Maureen. Many of you who are tuning in from London will know Sister Maureen. She's been a student and teacher of Raj Yoga for over 40 years. She's the program director of the Brahma Kumaris in the UK, and she's the BK representative to the United Nations in Vienna, Austria. Her work with the spiritual and ethical dimensions of climate change explores the nature of harmony and the connection between our inner state of being and the state of our earth. In 2016, she co-convened a dialogue called A World in Transition, Caring for the Earth, as a contribution to the Spirit of Humanity Forum. Other recent presentations include the ethical dimension as part of a negotiator's toolkit, and at the Climate Change Conference in Bonn, and at the UN Convention on Biological Diversity and the European Union Sustainability Week. So a wealth of experience to draw on to share in our conversation this evening. And then across the world in India, Shantanu Mandal. And India is considered a global south country. Shantanu Mandal calls the entire planet his home. However, he's currently based in Mount Abu, Rajasthan, the headquarters of the Brahma Kumaris. As part of the Brahma Kumaris community, he's a graduate in fashion design from the prestigious NIFT in Kolkata. He was an exchange student in Paris and holds a second bachelor's degree in fine arts. His personal journey with the environment started in 2015, and he quickly became engaged in climate activities. In that same year, he was the rapporteur for COI, the Conference of the Youth, in Paris, and helped develop the Youth Manifesto as one of his many contributions towards COP. He believes that consciousness and climate are deeply connected and that solutions require an inner shift in consciousness. And one thing that was not added to that bio is he's a convener for the food, the food summit. Shantanu will have to correct me on that one.
The convener for the food care initiatives.
Yes, convener for the food care initiative. Thank you, Shantanu. So let me invite them to join. So on with our conversation, and we'll start off with a question. There are actually 3 questions that were part of the blurb. Why is this particular COP important? How can we make a difference without getting pulled into politics and heated interactions? And what reasons are there to be hopeful? And we'll start off with just a few minutes each, maybe about 4 minutes each, on your story and why this particular COP is important to you personally. Maybe Sister Maureen, if you don't mind, would you like to start?
Sure. Thank you, Ruth, for the introductions, and hello, Shantanu. We've been meeting over the Zoom for several months, and we will be meeting personally in Glasgow shortly. Yes, this COP, actually, COP26 is the COP that was, of course, meant to happen last year, but it's the COP that is really meant to consolidate the outcomes of COP in Paris in 2015. And so it's a very, very important milestone for governments to continue to work together and to honor those commitments. And I think that most people, if not all people, will agree that in terms of climate change, we seem to really be at a very, very critical moment. And one of the figures I've heard is that if we don't manage to change the way in which we are working and living our lifestyles, the way we produce our goods and so on, within the next 10 years, then absolutely climate change is irreversible. And so we will see the sea levels rising, we will see greater natural calamities, as they're called, and apparently the sea rise in the last 100 years is more than in the past 3,000 years. So I think there's very little doubt that we're in the age of the Anthropocene, where human activity has really brought about this huge change in the climate. So I do see this COP as very, very critical. And my own journey, actually, I think I've always been interested in hearing about climate change, but I think where it really became more of a, something I really wanted to pursue and go more deeply into was when I was part of convening the dialogues you mentioned on a world in transition, caring for the earth. And this was part of the Spirit of Humanity Forum that I'm involved in. And in this forum, we had decided with this topic to have some preparatory dialogues. And one of them was to do with the environment. And so the theme of caring for the earth was the theme that we took. And we were a small group, I think about 20 people, something like that, maybe 25. And there were scientists, there were philosophers, there were religious leaders, spiritual leaders, and it was a hugely in-depth conversation. And it was a very reflective process as well that we went through about the nature of our relationship with the earth itself. And I think when we take things on this dimension, one thing is to think about the treaties, is to think about the measures that can be taken and the goals that have to be met. But yet, when we think about our fundamental connection with the earth, with nature, with the elements around us that we use every day and that serve us constantly, if we can begin to change that awareness of that relationship in a very conscious way, then I think there really can be a very important move towards a change in the activity that can mitigate against climate change. And I've seen how the language has changed over the years. It was mitigate, then it was adapt. And now the discussion is about loss and damage. So it really tells you where we are at. So I feel this is quite critical. So then it was after that dialogue that my own internal commitment became stronger, and I became more interested in what was happening in the environmental field. And I've been to a couple of UN conferences, but this will actually be the first COP conference that I'm going to. So I'm, although it's not been an easy route because of the times that we're in, the government regulations and many factors, but I am just very, very interested to be there and to learn a lot. And I hope to some extent our activities there as Brahma Kumaris can make a difference.
Same question, Shantanu.
Yeah, I think,
History and
thank you, Ruth, for welcoming me, and hello and Om Shanti and greetings of peace to everyone who's watching, and nice to meet very exclusively with Sister Maureen here. Although we keep meeting in bigger groups, but meeting like this is so much more cozy and beautiful. I would just like to add, when Sister Maureen just showed that entire journey of human race in terms of mitigating climate crisis, she just covered it in 3 words, and they were so nice: from mitigation to adaptation to now loss and damage. So this in itself tells that how much of that sand is slipping out of our hands and what is there for us to do. So for me, the journeys began in the year 2015. Before that, I was a very pakka, you could say, a very good consumer who would love to consume anything that looks very flashy and good. And my background in fashion design also helped me to keep updating myself without understanding what updation really means. So I was a very compulsive consumer who used to consume things, buy things, purchase things just for the sake of having something unique in my wardrobe. And I attended a meeting uh, in our headquarters in Gyan Sarovar. And in that conference, we came across the aspect of consciousness and consumption and what it is doing as an impact on the overall world. And there was a question asked that how many pairs of shoes do you have? And I raised my hand when I was asked 1 pair, 2 pairs, and by the time it was 8 pairs, I was the only person who had his hands raised. And I could feel like, oh my God, is this a good thing or a bad thing that I have the most number of shoes? Or is it a bad thing that I'm the only one who's using too many number of shoes? So that really kept me thinking, and I started thinking that what is that I am missing out? I am a person who loves to be updated, but why I am not updating myself in terms of this, that what is my footprint? What is that I am leaving on for people to live after me? So I started working on it. I started reading a lot about it, and on internet you get so much to read, as Ruth, you were saying, that you don't need to spend a lot of time. Just few hours of internet reading, good reading, will take you to some very powerful statistics that will help you open your wisdom more, and that helped me. And immediately in the November 2015, I started my, I would say, environmental action by a personal approach. I changed my diet. I became a vegan. And as soon as I started thinking about this, I started feeling that what I am gaining from this personal action, how should I, spread it to others? And one after the other, little events, I started joining them. I started contributing in whichever way I could, through my skills, through my networking. And soon I found myself joining in COPs. So this would be my third COP. And why this COP looks very important to me, because one of the landmark COPs was the COP at Paris. Why it was landmark? Because for the first time ever in the history, so many nations together decided, yes, it's an emergency, and let's decide to one temperature that we would all stick to. So that was the time when they all agreed. And this is the time when it's going to be a review time. So since COP50, COP20, COP at Paris, it's this COP26. Now countries are coming together to review what has been achieved by each of them within this time frame. So, and review time is always a very important one. It's just like when your report card is being read. So how many ticks you have. So there has been a lot of nationally determined contributions. Every nation has determined that we will do this, we will do this, we will do this to achieve the goal of 1.5 degrees centigrade. COP26 is the place where they will be reviewed of their promises. And that's why it is very important. And I have also made certain promises with myself, with my communities, with my friends, that I will do my best to keep raising the hope, to keep raising the voices of those who are not being heard at a level of UN. So I'm also going to review myself there. And that's why it's a very important COP for me.
Thank you both. And perhaps what you've just shared there, Shantanu, will lead us into the second question, or the method to deal with differences. How can we make a difference to ourselves, to others, to the conversation, without getting pulled into politics and heated interactions? How can we make a difference without getting pulled into the politics and heated interactions? There's passion when we're following our heart, but in my experience, we're also very vulnerable unless we're very careful to get pulled into arguing, defensiveness of our position, especially when, in my personal story, I can't do as much as I think I should do. And so there's a little element of guilt, maybe. Like, yes, I'm vegan, but I battled for 2 or 3 years with the fact I didn't really want to be, and then I should be, and this and that. And I think many people face that. So how can we make a difference without getting pulled into argument, defense, and interactions that aren't productive and helpful? Maybe Shantanu, would you like to start, and then Sister Maureen can continue?
Sure. If I am to ask this question, that how can I make a difference without really confronting myself with things that I don't like? It is a test of the wisdom, I would say. How wise I am to choose that what is that when I do, I am comfortable and yet I am doing my part. Many times what happens when we try to do something, we copy others. What stands good for Sister Maureen might not be equally good for you, Ruth, or might not be equally good for me. So everybody has their own exclusive journey. And to understand what I could do, what I should do, first I have to understand who I am and what kind of a person I am, what is best for me. So it starts with the awareness about the self. What are the things that I can do? Awareness about my possibilities, my capacities. I know human spirit is immensely capable, yet we are not there. So right now, wherever I am, what is that I can do? So that awareness is very important. Secondly, after that awareness has come, it is important to bring it into action. I can be aware of 1,000 things and do nothing. That awareness is futile, it is of no use. So that awareness should translate into an action that leaves an imprint. Because once the action is done, I will create some memories, some kind of good memories, bad memories, whatever it is, but there would be an imprint. And this imprint helps me to do that action or take that decision or make that choice again and again. And to translate this awareness into action, we need power, we need energy, we need empowerment. So I would say to culminate it into three letters would be three P's. One is the promises, the second is participation, and the third is perseverance. So what is that I promise to myself? What is that I promise to myself, to my people around? And when I promise it, that promise comes with an awareness, then I change it into participation. I take part into that promise. I take part into that action. And once this participation is happening, then I feel, okay, I have taken a part, now I have to continue it. So perseverance, to keep doing it. As you said, sometimes you are able to achieve it, sometimes you are not. After you haven't achieved it, after I have failed, what is my next thought? Is my next thought, okay, let's give it up? Or is it, okay, I have failed this time, next time I'll do better? You know, in our school days, we used to have a mathematical problem where they used to say a snail climbs a scale of 12 inches, 3 inches per night, and drops down 2 inches. By when will it climb the top? And that was my favorite question, because at the end it reaches the top. So no matter if we are falling down from our efforts, but at least the graph of raising and going down in an average should move on the top. It should be an inclined one and not a flat one or not a declined one. So even if we are giving up sometimes, even if things are not easy for us, it's okay. The next time should be a bigger and better one. So that is something that I would like to share when you ask me this question, that remember the three P's: promise, participation, and perseverance.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lovely. I love things where it's three P's or an acronym. My mind can hold on to that. A lot of stuff goes in one ear and out the other. So can I
And
ask
one
the-
more thing,
Yeah.
one more thing to add into it. These three P's are not just for individual levels. I do this individually, but it can be also considered into a community level also. Like a community takes a promise, it participates, and then it perseveres to that promise. It could be also considered into at a national level also. So this is the same thing: the awareness, action, and empowerment, promise, participation, perseverance at all levels. So nobody has to be really thinking a lot in how to do it at bigger levels. Just start from wherever you are comfortably and sustainably. If my actions are prolonged and sustainable and I'm comfortable while I'm doing those, I'll be happy to keep doing those for longer time. So that would be something that I just wanted to add.
Yes, thank you. It's very practical. Thank you. Maybe, do you have anything to add, Sister Maureen, from your perspective?
Well, I just loved what Shantanu said, and it's such an important practice internally to continue to create hope in the self. And, just as negative emotions can be infectious, if you're angry, then and you express anger, others will be angry with you. That's usually the way it happens. But I also see that positive emotions are also very, very infectious. And so if, through that internal practice, I am able to maintain hope, then that hope is going to be infectious to others. I'll create that attitude or that atmosphere of hope. And I do feel that's very important at the moment, because there's a lot of climate anxiety. It is now actually, named as that, and particularly amongst young people. And it's really great to hear a young voice like Shantanu, and I know he works with many others who are in their own way and collect individually and also collectively, inspiring hope, maintaining hope. And we do need to be together in this. And, you know, when you are with people who really don't seem to get it, let me put it that way, you know, when you're thinking about climate change and what we need to do on a personal level, on a collective level, on a government level, you know, it really is something that needs a lot of courage to begin to change the systems that we have, because it's a systemic change that is needed. And for governments to admit to that, it's not very easy. And I just, for my own personal practice, in a way, when I'm going into, I mean, I'm not in negotiation with governments in a way we'd all love to be, because we would love to have our voices heard more and more strongly. But you know, when I'm interacting with people and I can see that that whole ethic of care and the thinking of future generations is not really driving them. There are other principles or values that are driving them that are not so far-sighted or spiritual. But then I say to myself, it's very important that I keep my own dignity in whatever it is I'm engaging in, because by keeping my own dignity, I'm not going to be adding any fuel to another person's negativity or fear. And I think fear is a very big factor here, because although anybody, whether you're a prime minister or you're a head of an NGO or you're, you know, somebody who is participating, somebody's on a demonstration or whatever level it is, anybody, if you sit quietly, you can know what your conscience is saying and you can know what is right. But the courage to follow that, you know, there's a huge leap then. And so that's where I feel that I want to maintain that atmosphere of dignity and understanding, and to understand the fear that people have to make those kind of profound changes that are really necessary. And so if I get into debate or, you know, get upset about it, they'll become more entrenched in their fear and in their, you know, stance. So I really feel that, you know, that you have to be, or one has to be, a kind of enabling presence in these discussions, so that new perspectives can come out, different points of view, and, you know, and change. And I have to say, the voice of women is very important. I was reading something recently, that just the other day, that where there are more, and now I haven't seen the statistic, but I can, well, I'm sure it must be true, but where there are parliaments where there's a majority of women, then that country has a lower emission of greenhouse gases. So that's something interesting to research. But I think the voice of women is very important, because women are carers. That's not only women. Those qualities from men and women. I always have to say that, otherwise we have this kind of gender split, which isn't that useful. But I do feel the voice of women needs to be heard.
Thank you. And I was just thinking that, you know, the caring, the women, perhaps you could say a little bit about the role of the religions and spiritual organizations, and the voice they have and will have in COP, because traditionally they are nurturing, sustaining people of their faith or their organization, and there's the care, and there tend to be a lot of women active in religion as well. Would you like to share a little bit? I read a statistic that an estimated 84% of the world's population identify with the faith. That's a massive number of people. Perhaps you could say how religions and spiritual organizations can contribute towards a successful COP.
I think sometimes religious and spiritual movements, organizations don't realize the power that we do have. Like you say, that figure, 84% of the world's population follow a faith, but then I was told percentages and I didn't bring them, but there's a huge percentage of religious organizations that are involved in investment, in finance, in education, in healthcare. And so if religious traditions take this up, and I see that, we have in the Catholic Church, of course, a good steer from His Holiness Pope Francis with Laudato Si and further encyclicals. And then just on Monday, on the 4th of October, there was a gathering in the Vatican of scientists and religious leaders, and they had been negotiating or in discussion for several months to come up with a statement, which maybe some of you have seen, but they are calling for that fundamental shift. And religions, I do feel, have a lot of power to help to bring this about. And of course, where people follow a faith, where their leaders, so to speak, really begin to profess a certain kind of attitude towards the environment and climate change, then that has a big impact on, I don't know whether to use the word followers or members or what, but those who are part of that faith will want to listen. And I'm just, and I know here in the Brahma Kumaris, the person who is our CEO here, Sister Jenti, and she's also now one of the additional administrative heads of the organization. She has traditionally headed up the COP delegations. She herself is vegan, as I am too. She really is trying to live with that lifestyle. And I know for people here generally and in the UK, it really has had a big impact that she is really making those kind of statements, not just in words, but through her lifestyle. And all of us are trying to do that. And so I think you cannot underestimate the role and its own of religious and spiritual organizations. It's only now, or really since Paris, that this has been taken more seriously. Why not before? Who can say? But it's time. And so more and more the faith-based organizations are being listened to, I feel. Shantanu, you may want to add to that.
Yeah, I think you pretty much said everything. And really, I have seen one of my inspirations to become vegan was Sister Jayanti herself. So thanks for bringing her up. Ruth, I would like to read something from the net, which is very interesting and people would like it. This is by Mr. Gus Speth. He's a scientist. He was the US advisor on climate change and a professor at Yale University. He said very interestingly, I used to think that top environmental problems were biodiversity loss, ecosystem collapse, and climate change. I thought that 30 years of good science could address these problems. I was wrong. The top environmental problems are selfishness, greed, and apathy. And to deal with these, we need a cultural and spiritual transformation, and we scientists don't know how to do that. I think that's the answer.
That says everything.
Yeah. So we do not have an answer for apathy. There is no medicine that you take and you are free from ego, anxiety, and things. There has to be an understanding and awareness of practice. If I take an example of, say, a person who is addicted to something, and how long can you help him come out of his addiction if you just give him some chemicals? He might be out of it for some time, but then again the pull would be back. So there has to be an inner calling, there has to be an understanding, there has to be an upgraded wisdom that helps that person understand that this is not fair for me, not good for me, not healthy for me or for my family, and then he gives up. And this upgradation of the wisdom happens through faith. whichever faith they follow, if they really follow properly. So something similar is with this entire world. We are addicted to too much of carbon usage. We are addicted to our old lifestyle, a lifestyle that is killing our tomorrow. So if we want to really come out of that addiction, there has to be this empowerment that comes from faith. And really, if you see these three words, apathy, greed, and ego, selfishness, this is what is really the problem. And to really fight is to fight with inner consciousness, with an understanding. I would just like to quote the Brahma Kumari's initiative in this. We started working with solar when nobody was in India, nobody was even talking about it. It was back in 90s. Sister Maureen would know because I am still young here and she has been here for more than 40 years, so she knows.
I can't remember the
I just
date.
ask you-
I can't
Yeah.
remember the date, but it was a long time ago. I know that, early 90s. Yeah.
Can I ask you to explain what you mean by solar? Because there may be some people that don't know that.
Yeah. So there's a project called India One Solar Thermal Power Plant where it's a huge project. It's one of a kind, and we are able to sustain our electricity requirements through this project. It's an indigenous project built, prepared, manufactured, and executed by our own team. But it didn't come up like that. We started with an experimentation on solar cookers, which Sister Maureen would better know because it was back in 90s. And when we started doing this, many people said, why do you need this? Why are you even thinking about these things? You focus on your meditation and practice. And then our seniors at that time, the leaders of the organization, they had that vision, they had that far-sightedness, and they said, this is important not just for the organization in terms of economics, in terms of our sustainability. It is also important because we are carrying a debt on Mother Nature. This is our way to repay it back. And it's been 25 years now, and these systems are still running. And now people come and learn from us, and they come to see it as an example to adapt it in their places. We have been sharing our best practices with other organizations as well. So the point is, there was a time when people used to say religion is separate, spirituality is separate, science is separate, everything separate, politics is separate, youth is separate, everything. There was a lot of boundaries. But we all understood by time, under pressure, that we all breathe, we all eat, we all feel. And so we all are facing the same problem. And so we all have to come together to, come out of it. And that's why now, more than ever, the requirement for faith-based organizations to come up with solutions is more than ever because it is easier when you do it with a lot of faith. They say faith can move mountains. So, but you don't really need to move mountains, then things would change and it will go bad. So you just have to shift that rock inside, that rock that is inside, you just shift that rock with the help of faith. And that's why faith-based organizations can really do a lot. And we are trying our best.
True. Thank you. It's so beautiful. And, when we really have that determined commitment internally, then, well, God helps, I know. And yes, it becomes an inspiration for others. Absolutely. I remember we were all one year given solar lamps to take home this at one point, and all over India. Actually, the Brahma Kumaris are, I think, still the biggest or nearly the biggest single institutional users of solar energy in India, because we have installed it at our centers all over. Oh, it really is possible. Yeah. Okay.
I'm watching the clock and it's ticking away. It's not
Right.
just for us, it's ticking away for the world as well. But at least hopefully people are getting some ideas and some inspiration for next steps, because it can be immensely overwhelming when I think I have to do all this alone or even understand it all. But there's one project that not everyone will have heard of, and that's the sustainable yogic farming, which has had a massive impact in India. Would you share a little bit about that, Shantanu, and also how I could use that here at home in Manchester? Could you share a little of that?
Sure, I would love to. The Sustainable Yogic Agriculture Project became a project later, but before it was an experiment done by a few Brahma Kumari's members within their little patch of garden, and they just wanted to see what impact would our positive vibrations have on nature, on plants. And they saw beautiful results. They saw that their plants had better yield. They saw their plants could fight more strongly to the pests and other diseases that the plants have. And so they started working on it. And eventually this project called SYK, Sustainable Yogic Kheti, Kheti in Hindi means agriculture, started. So it's a combination of the traditional organic method of farming, where you do not use any chemical pesticides, you do not use any kind of harming elements to enhance your product, which means it is a greed-free agriculture system. It's a system where you are trying to become benevolent and non-violent in your practice of agriculture as well. And so they use organic methods, traditional methods, and most importantly is bringing your consciousness into your action to become more aware of what you are doing. So not just putting a seed like that and finish. No, to first connect with with your good energy with the seed, flow it, sow it, irrigate it, and every step has the beautiful power of meditation happening. So what we do is necessarily all those farmers or anybody who wants to practice sustainable yogic agriculture, they are taught how to meditate, meditate on the seeds, meditate on the water that is being used, meditate on the little saplings that are coming out. So basically to get in touch with nature, to have a communication with it. So that what happens when we do this is that we start connecting with heart. We are not just mechanically doing farming, we are doing it with heart. Anything that you do with heart will always leave a better impression. You cook a cake for me just because, oh, Shantanu is going to come and I have to feed him a cake. That's mechanical. But if you say, oh, Shantanu is coming, let me make a nice cake for him. You do it with a lot of heart and I'll enjoy. And I'll always remember, the best cake ever was this one. So it's something similar. So now this became a project and many agricultural universities and government bodies came and started doing research on it. And they found that the immunity of the seeds, the root and shoot growth of the plants and saplings is much, much more better than normal saplings or normal way of agriculture. And the yield is almost 3 times more than the normal yield. So you can do it even in your little garden or little orchard or little pot that you have. And if you want to try, I can just share a little tip with you. I would say that if you can keep a seed in your hand and just go into your inner self, realize who you are. And we can do this. If you have a seed, it's good. Otherwise, after this, you can practice and just bring these beautiful thoughts in yourself that I am the seed of life. I am the seed of this life. All my thoughts, words, actions, these are all my extensions, like branches, shoots, stems, leaves, flowers. What I receive is the fruit of these actions. So the seed that I am holding or is in front of me is also as powerful as me. It is the house, it is the dormant place for life. Life is sacred. So the seed is also sacred. I am that sacred being. I connect my sacredness, my purity, my power with this seed. I share my beautiful vibrations of peace with this seed. And this is energizing the seed, making it stronger. And now this seed is ready to be sown. So now this seed, with your good wishes, when goes into the ground, emerges out with lot more vigor and power. And this we do with every step. So there are now more than 2000 farmers in India who are practicing this. They have come out from their adversities, they have come out from their debt levels, they have become really, really self-sufficient. And most importantly, what has happened is their lifestyle has changed. So many of them who were under the, you know, under the cage of addictions, poverty, they have come out of it. Addictions have gone because they have practicing meditation, so it is changing them internally also. So their life has changed, their family system has changed, they all have become more content and happy. Even if the growth is not good, they are still content because now they have that inner power, and they do not lose hope and try better the next time. So it is bringing a big shift in people's mindset and in their practice.
Thank you. And thank you for that lovely meditation. I'm seeing how that could be applied to sprouting beans as well for salad and many things around the house. Yeah, around the home, around the office. Thank you. We are actually going to finish with the meditation from Sister Maureen in about 5 minutes too. Just a final thought, perhaps to raise hope or give hope or help people leave with a little more hope than perhaps they came with. Sister Maureen?
Well, I think a couple of things. If you really connect with your inner self, with your deeper conscience, take time to reflect, connect with the inner being. We will have a meditation reflective practice in a moment. And if you draw strength from the benevolent source, whatever term you use, God or the divine, but somehow we have to redress the balance in our own internal energy and in terms of our relationship with the earth. And that divine source can help us so much with that. We need inner strength. We need to listen to ourselves. We need to listen to our deeper values. We need to listen to our conscience. And then whatever we do will naturally be something that can help the planet and help others. But I know just by doing without the connecting, there can be a little bit of despair. But the connecting, then the doing, then it works. And I wanted to just share, I felt, the principles we have for our environmental initiative, these 5 principles: living with simplicity, buying compassionately, using economically, learning continuously, and sharing generously. And these are very beautiful principles to live by. Thank you.
Thank you. And just to let you know that after our final meditation, there will be a slide that will come up with the websites and the social media handles, places where you can look for more information. Shantanu, one final brief.
Well, this is a difficult question. There's never a final message. It keeps changing. But if I have to say something, I would say never give up hope, because I think giving up hope is a sin. It's a crime to the self. It is crime to the family, the big family that we live in. And there are situations that will look like that there is only one way, is to leave the hope, but push yourself and stick to that hope. And how to do that is with love. Love brings immense amount of hope. Love brings so much hope that you will never feel there is any space for disparity. So love and hope.
Thank you.
Beautiful.
What a lovely way to start to go into a meditation to close our program. Sister Maureen.
So, sitting comfortably, we then begin to reflect. We've heard many beautiful ideas, but we want to experience the things that we've heard. So let us go on our inner journey, a journey to my own heart, to the heart of my being. The mind will produce many waves of thoughts that will bring with them many emotions, depending on what's happening around me. My mind can be a roller coaster at times. But for this journey, let me go deep. Let those things remain on the surface. And let me go deep within to experience the peace and the silence at the heart of my being. To discover my original nature of peace. I am a being of peace, of love, of truth. These qualities are my gifts from the divine. And in this awareness, I feel that energy from the source, the divine one, is making those gifts strong so that I can begin to use them in my life. In my thoughts, in my words, in my deeds. Let me use wisdom in making my choices. Let me use love in all my relationships, including with the earth. A love that is giving, not needing to take. And let me use peace to preserve my inner dignity so that I go beyond influences, negative influences, and remain true to myself. In this way, we can inhabit the earth with love. And we can bring about transformation. And I leave you with a thought from an astronaut who said, "The world doesn't need to be saved. She just needs to be loved."
Thank you.
Thank
A
you.
lovely thought.
Om Shanti.
Thank you.
Thank you. Lovely thought that the world doesn't need to be saved. She just needs to be loved. Thank you. It's my great pleasure to announce the next Thursday talk from 7 to 8 next week. It's a special conversation in celebration of World Values Day, and it's called Reconnecting to Love, Pathway to a Better World. It features Sister Maureen and Ella Gregory, a very inspiring advocate for planetary and social well-being. And it's hosted and facilitated by Charles Fowler, one of the founders of the UK Values Alliance, and he plays a leading role in the coordination of World Values Day. So an extra special Thursday evening talk from Global Cooperation House. Details of that will be on the slide following. So thanks again, and a very good evening to everyone.